Okay, let's talk about how you can have better podcast interviews using a discussion guide. To start with, a discussion guide is just an overview of the conversation that you want to have with somebody, but it also includes a lot of background information that you'll want to have prior to that discussion. So you, as the podcast host, can create the discussion guide, or you can have somebody assist you in doing it. A few elements to a discussion guide. The first thing you want to do is you want to do a lot of research on your guest. You want to understand who they are as a person, as a professional. You want to write a brief bio of your guest that will be in the discussion guide. It's always helpful to read that right before the interview so you know who it is that you're talking to. You have some context for that conversation and for that person. You also want to include their social media handles so that you can mention those at the end of the show, but also so that you can just take a peek at their social accounts before you do the discussion. Make sure your discussion guide includes a pronunciation of the guest's name, even if it's simple. Every time I get on to do a professional podcast interview, I ask the guest to confirm how their name is pronounced. I do that even if it's something simple like John Smith, every time, no exceptions, just in case. Next, make sure you pick out relevant topics and put those in the discussion guide so that you can sort of think through the topics that you're going to be talking about, and it sort of gives you something to sort of glance at and key in on as you're having the discussion, as you're doing the interview. Add reminders to the guest. So like in the discussion guide, in your kind of preamble about them, like, hey, add a little reminder, like, hey, don't forget to silence your phone. Don't forget to use headphones. Make sure you have water nearby. And then add pre-recording questions to ask your guests. So sometimes you'll be interviewing a guest and you might know some things about them, but they might or might not want to talk about some of those things. And so just ask up front. So for example, if you're talking to an entrepreneur about their experience in entrepreneurship, you might say, well, is it okay for us to talk about revenue or not? Because revenue is a big part of entrepreneurship, but some entrepreneurs are comfortable talking about revenue and others are not. And so you want to make sure that you ask that question up front so that you can stay away from any taboo topics for that individual. So that's how to have better podcast interviews with a discussion guide.